Well, I'm excited to be able to start talking to you guys about absolute value. Now, absolute value is really easy and fun, and so this will be a really quick lesson. You will need to get this activity paper from the back table, and then what I want you to do is, usually I want you just to, especially if it'll fit, just to glue it straight down into your notebook. But because we are also going to fit our floof book on the same page, I'm going to have you trim this out. So this part right here, trim it out. You don't want to cut on the dotted line. You can get a little bit closer. The most important thing is when you trim this piece, I'm going to have you cut right up next to these lines. So you can see that I trimmed my piece out. I didn't cut just on the dotted line. I cut it right next to the edge of these lines. And let me show you why. So you have your interactive notebook. Page 18 is your exponent. So we're going to go right next door to page 19. Be sure that you then flip to the front of your interactive notebook to your table of contents. You caught me. You caught Mrs. Smith. She does not have her notebook filled out. Let me take care of that because we should have page 18 and 19 in her table of contents. Page 18 is exponents, and it's the doodle notes. And then page 19 is going to be absolute value. The exponents is standard 2.4 in number sense. Absolute value is 2.6. We are going to use the floof page to do some fun questions together on that. So let me see if I can get that to zoom a little bit better for you. Exponents, doodle notes, and absolute value in your table of contents. Okay, so then here we go. Page 18 was our exponents. Be sure that you have the number written in the top corner. Page 19, let me show you how we're going to lay this out. It's very important that you lay it out correctly. Your absolute value is going to get glued to the very top. Okay, now we're not going to glue until you fill this out, because if we glue it now, the paper will be damp and hard to write on. But then we're going to take our absolute value page that has the practice problems, and we're going to go right to the edge. There's a reason for that. The floof book is also going to go on this page. It's going to be a review of both exponents and absolute value. You're going to want to use your nails and make it really tight. And then where the page will open, you're going to want to glue it close to the spine. That way when we close our book, it won't be on the edge and forcing our book open all the time. Just trust me, I've done this a bunch. But in order to fit everything on this page, including the review booklet that you're going to make, this needs to be trimmed tightly, and this will need to be here. But for now, we're just going to quickly go over absolute value. Now, this should not be the first time you've heard of it, because when we did page 16, we had a beautiful number line here with positive and negative numbers, and we talked about how absolute value was the distance that a number is from 0 on the number line. And the absolute value is never negative, because we don't say we drove negative 14 miles somewhere. We would just say I drove 14 miles. So distance is always positive. The notation of absolute value are these straight up and down bars, kind of like a set of parentheses, only they're just straight lines. And so whether the number inside is a negative or a positive, like the example of 5 here, it always comes out positive. So we're going to do a whole page just on talking about that. You can see it's not much, because there's not a lot that we need to talk about, because it's very straightforward. So let's talk about the definition. This is actually where you will be tested over this definition. So it's very important that you get this part down right. This will be a test question. The absolute value of an integer is its, okay, and do you remember what I said? It's its what? Distance from 0 on the number line. Okay, so again, when we had a number line, we could see that 5 was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 away from 0, the same as negative 5 is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 from 0. So the absolute value of -5 was 5, and the absolute value of 5 is 5, because I'm saying the distance from 0 is 5 for both of them. The notation, and we've got to put these straight up and down bars, is used for the absolute value of an unknown integer that satisfies a given condition. So the number inside can be any integer, negative or positive. Really, that's it, guys. It's not too much to learn or to know. It's the distance from 0. And then we have some practice problems here. Okay, I'm going to do a few of these, and then I'm going to ask you to finish the rest and check with a neighbor. So how far is -42 from 0? Correct. 42. What is the distance of 17 from 0? 17. And how far is -243 from 0? 243. See, remember, it always comes out positive. Let's write that up in the corner. Well, let's glue this to the side just a little bit, and under the number 19, write, it is always positive. And if you still have a highlighter at your table, you could even highlight that. It is always positive, right? Okay, now there is some trickiness. Look over here on the right-hand side. See that negative? It is outside what I used to refer to as like those magic absolute value bars. See, the magic absolute value bars only pertains to what's inside those walls. And that is where we're talking about how far from 0. But the negative is on the outside, so it will stay there. Now, how far is 19 from 0? 19 spaces. So that's how we can use a negative when we are talking about distance. The distance itself is actually positive, but since that negative is not talking about distance, it's on the outside, it stays there. So the negative absolute value of 92 is -92, because the negative was on the outside of those magic bars. Okay? So let's skip down here. -53, we know this inside part, the absolute value of -53 is a positive 53. But this negative is outside, so it's going to stay there. You will have this in your assignment today in accelerated math. Now, here's my magic bars, right? Everything we do inside is going to end up being positive. But what is -1 plus -5? That's right. Signs are the same, so I'm going to add and keep the sign. If you did my video on the two armies, this army had 1 negative soldier. This army had 5 negative soldiers. When they came down the cliffs and they met in the valley, they were all on the same side. So you had 6 negative soldiers. However, now, since they're inside these magic absolute value bars, it's going to come out positive. Okay? Look at this one. Don't forget on this one, we need to add a line, because it's a subtraction, and add a line doesn't know how to do subtraction. So I have -7. If I add a line, now I have the negative absolute value of -7 plus -5. And again, this army has 7 negative soldiers. This one has 5 negative soldiers. So together, there are 12 negative soldiers. But that negative is on the outside. So even though my absolute value of -12 is a positive 12, since the negative is on the outside, I'm going to add it. Yeah, I wanted to do those harder ones with you, but you can fill out the other, looks like 8 problems on your own. Then take the glue, make sure to glue it down on the very edge so that you'll put your your book here. We're not going to glue the book down because we're going to work in our book later. The book belongs in your Elm folder. Finish this page, check with a neighbor or an adult, and then go to your accelerated math to practice your absolute value problems. And have a great day.